This was not a video I was planning to make. Now, I wanted to make a video on the Battlefront Classic Collection regardless, because these games are so incredibly special to me, and I was hoping to spend a good chunk of time on it before I made a video, but this launch has been such a disaster, it could not be ignored. Now, for context here, for those who don't know, the original Battlefronts are some of my favorite games ever. Saying they were my childhood feels like an understatement. These games were my religion as a kid. Before I even got super into video games, I remember going to my neighbor's house to play them, and I loved them so much. Being the big Star Wars fan I was and am, I begged my parents to get me a PlayStation 2 to play them. That didn't happen, but eventually one of my friends gave me their old one, and I played these games so much. I don't even think I ever played online either. I would play Instant Action, Galactic Conquest, and local split screen with a few friends. These games hold so much nostalgia, so much sentimental value to me, far and away my most played games as a youth. So when I saw this Classic Collection announced, I was immediately hyped. I'd still returned to these games a few times here and there over the years, but knowing the games would be fully revived with online populated servers was very exciting. On top of that, the modern Battlefront 2 by EA, a game I also really loved, lost live service support a few years back, and so the Battlefront IP has just been sitting dormant collecting dust. Because for some reason, EA ended support for the game as it was hitting its peak, and then elected to not make a Battlefront 3. So I was also pretty happy about sticking it to EA and showing them just how many people are still interested in the Battlefront IP with the release of the Classic Collection. And these games have so much content in them, the amount of maps, game modes, playable characters. The modern Battlefronts still came really nowhere close to the amount of content the originals offered. They were getting there before EA killed it, but these games are such timeless classics that making a re-release of them and reviving the online servers for all the modern platforms seemed like such an easy slam dunk of an opportunity. All they had to do was bring the games to modern platforms and set up some new servers. That's it. They could have done the bare minimum in terms of a re-release and people would buy it, including myself who just wanted to experience playing this game in multiplayer in 2024. And yet, somehow, they managed to screw it up. Because us Star Wars gaming fans haven't suffered enough. Funnily enough, I was actually going to pre-order this game, but deep down, and I swear I'm not making this up, I had a small feeling that Asper was somehow gonna screw it up. So I didn't pre-order it, and lo and behold, the Classic Collection launch has been a colossal disappointment, because it couldn't be a modern Star Wars game without having a terrible launch. Same thing with Jedi Survivor, same thing with EA's Battlefront 2. Why do new Star Wars game releases feel so cursed on launch? Now, seeing all the negative reviews and issues people were having, I still bought the Classic Collection to experience these problems for myself so I can make a video on it for you guys. And after suffering through these issues, I immediately refunded it. The multiplayer is such a mess, I'll get into those issues more in a second, and there's no point in me just playing the single player because I already own the original games and can just play single player on those anyway. So right now, there's no real reason to play the Classic Collection if the multiplayer is broken. So initially when the game first launched, Asper, the studio behind this re-release, only had 3 dedicated servers of 64 players available. That allows for about 200 players, while tens of thousands are trying to play the game. I don't know what they were thinking. Then they finally put some more servers up, and they have all kinds of issues. The most notable are connection issues and lag. It doesn't matter how good your connection is, these servers are incredibly laggy. It makes it practically unplayable. When I was playing Battlefront 1 in a multiplayer match, as it was about to end, the game just completely froze and removed everybody. Same issues with Battlefront 2, and a very common issue was whenever a match ended and all the players were loading into the next match, the game just wouldn't start. It would be stuck on the waiting for players screen, sometimes indefinitely for me. Or it would just flat out kick me out and say the connection to the host had been lost. It's not only that either, I had a game crash, I had this weird bug where I would get stuck on 1 second to respawning, and it just wouldn't let me respawn, so I had to quit out of the game. Whenever I was in the respawn screen on Battlefront 2, it would just completely bug out in the background. When I was actually in the game, I would be having a pretty good time until the server was hit with some awful lag spikes and rubber banding. A lot of the times happening while I'm in a firefight. I'd be fighting someone and then be teleported back to where I was like 15 seconds ago. I had delayed deaths, hit registry felt really off and really delayed at times. It didn't feel smooth at all. The frame rate was perfectly fine for me, as you would expect for 20-year-old games, but the lag issues were constant. There was also this weird bug where the audio would at times spike or completely cut out for a second. On Starfighter Assault, there were textures and objects that were flickering and popping in and out of existence. For some reason, the ship controls are stuck on inverted with no option to change them. There is a workaround on Battlefront 2 where you have to change the keybinds in a specific way to make it uninverted, but this doesn't work for Battlefront 1. And mind you, this was not an issue in the original games. There's so many issues with the online that you're better off just holding out for now and hoping they fix it eventually. I'm shocked at how badly they screwed this up though. All they had to do was bring back the online servers and copy and paste these original games, and they couldn't even do that right. This thing has been announced for around a month now. They knew a lot of people were going to be playing it based on all the excitement over the announcement, and they were still completely unprepared. How does that happen? I can't believe I'm saying this, but you're making EA look competent in comparison right now. It angers me so much, and it honestly breaks my heart to see my cherished childhood games be mishandled in this matter. This was supposed to be a time for a trip down memory lane with all this nostalgia, everyone enjoying Battlefront again like it's the early 2000s, and now the whole thing has just been soured by this terrible launch. I'm sure the servers will get fixed eventually, but it should have under no circumstances launched this broken to begin with. And by the time it's fixed, who knows how many people will still be playing? I mean, these games are 20 years old. Like I said, from what I played, single player was fine, although from what I heard, some people were having issues with that too. But if you're just gonna play single player, you might as well play the original games anyway. The whole point of the Classic Collection was to play multiplayer in a way people haven't experienced in 10 to 15 years. Or like me, who only ever played single player as a kid to finally see what it's like. On top of this, there's no crossplay, which honestly seems like the least of the game's issues right now, but not including it seems like an oversight. I'm sorry for the very passionate rant, but I love these games so much, and it honestly offends me to see this be so poorly handled. EA is probably thrilled they aren't the bad guy in a Star Wars game launch for once. Man, at this point we gotta be begging Ubisoft not to mess it up with Star Wars Outlaws coming out this year. When Ubisoft is your only hope, something is definitely wrong.
You're my only hope.
I'm just so disappointed. In the few minutes or seconds I wasn't experiencing any issues, I was actually having an incredible time and reliving my childhood for a little bit. These games haven't aged the best, of course, but man, they're still so fun. There's so much content, so many memories, the sound effects, the official Star Wars music in the menus and in-game, the iconic voice lines that are engraved in my memory. There's been a lot of bad game launches in recent years, but this one hurts my very soul. Hopefully I can come back to this in the near future and everything will be fixed. But for now, I'd strongly advise staying away from the Classic Collection. Again, if you want to play single player and do some Galactic Conquest or something, which was always so much fun, just play the originals if you have them. I already own the classic Battlefront 2 on PC, so I'll be doing that while I wait for this to hopefully be fixed. But let me know how you guys feel about all this. I haven't talked about Battlefront on my channel for quite a long time, as there hasn't been much to talk about, but again, these games are too important to me to not express my frustration on this terrible launch. As always though, if you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and considered subscribing to the channel if you're new. A special thank you to my members for supporting me, and other than that, thanks for watching everybody, and watch those wrist rockets!